Oh, we're live already.
Oh, okay.
That was a surprise. We were just talking randomly. So, hello everybody. As you can see, we have the wonderful Shami Stoval with us tonight. We're just basically going to do our usual, talk some utter shite and chill out. But I was just saying to Shami that I love the fact that she's got game console controllers on a wall as art. I mean, that's fucking next level.
Yeah,
It just
I
shows you.
absolutely love it.
Is that a
Also,
Warhammer?
well, no, it's just that, like I said, if I pan the camera around, my desk is just absolutely loaded with Pokemon plushies. I can't fit any more Pokemon plushies anywhere on my desk, and they're spilling over to the couch and just the rest of the room because, I mean, there's like 900 of these guys now, and I don't have anywhere near all of them. So,
Hello. Um, so you're a J, if you see a request when you first join us saying, please allow StreamYard to see your details, please do it because that way we can see who you are. Otherwise, you just show up as Facebook user on our side. So, here's a hint, people. Say this every time. Please, for the love of God, just do.
they want to remain half anonymous.
I know. So, like, I shall hide from everyone. But the worst part is anybody else on Facebook can see who they are, but we can't. So it's just like, yeah,
Yeah, that's
last
why I
had
meant
one
like
job.
half anonymous because we don't know who
Yeah.
they are.
How
Oh,
you
hey,
doing?
Don.
Is it Brian? Is it? So he's done a bunch of these, and he's done lives, and he still gets caught out by it. Come on, Brian, put your finger out, son.
Long
Oh, so
Ian.
so I was reading a little while ago, because obviously you're here primarily to talk about your books.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was reading just a little while ago Academy Arcanist,
Oh, nice.
and I loved it. So when's the next one of those coming
Ah.
out?
Well, I was aiming for the end of February, but I might have been a little bit too ambitious because I just finished up Grandmaster. I mean, like
Yeah,
just like yesterday. It just came out, just released, and I'm about halfway through the sequel, so it's either gonna be the end of February or in March. I'm like this close. So
well, that's good then.
yeah.
So I've been looking forward to that because I know that when I start, hey Brian, you found it. Well done, mate. And I know with it being like sort of your Arcanist series, I don't want to start the other one yet because I've been so busy with like the stuff I've been working on. So once I've got this last bit now booked off that I'm finishing currently, then when you get to that point where you just go, and now I can relax, and I've got the whole set, and I'm like, yep, that's going to do me. Except of course the one that you've just finished yesterday, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. It's the
My,
completed series now, so at least I can say that to people. Be like, it's
that's a wonderful thing. Now I'm assuming this one is Zach because G'day kind of gives it away that he's an Aussie, so I'm assuming so. And you big, bald, beautiful bastard. But, so when's this one that you finished yesterday coming out then?
Oh, no, it came out yesterday. That was the
Oh, right.
release.
I
Yeah,
didn't
I just
realize it was released.
yeah, a few days before and a few days after, I get so much book release anxiety that I can't do anything else functionally. You know what I'm saying? I don't read
Yeah.
books, I don't do any writing, I just play a bunch of video games because I don't want to stress too much about it. And I don't know if you go through this, but in my mind, like everything goes wrong. Like, my God, what if Kindle doesn't deliver the ebook to anybody? And what if everybody hates every word that I put down? Or what if it's riddled with 58 bajillion typos that I missed somehow? Like, so I try not to think about it. So anytime there's a release, I just don't do any work at all, not even a little bit.
Do you check your rankings
Yeah, I do. I do check my rankings
obsessively?
religiously. Yeah, every couple of seconds. Like, man, maybe it updated, even though I know they don't update,
Yeah.
except for once every couple hours. Yeah.
Excuse me. Well done, Zaxxon. No, literally, when I first started, I was doing the whole refreshing the updates and refreshing to see where the ranks were. And then I had two releases where they buggered the updates.
Oh
And
yeah.
the ranking would be here, then it would be here, then it would be there, then it would be here. And it just ruined it for me. So I've stopped entirely looking at it. And people occasionally message me and say, hey, you've got a such and such. I'm like, ooh. Because I
Yeah.
just don't trust it anymore. So I won't let myself look because I'll get really obsessive and then
Yeah. I dislike being that crazy obsessive just because I feel like it dominates, my whole day. I'll be out with
Yeah,
friends or something. We're having a party, and I'm like, "Ugh, I need to look at my phone. Shh. So I try not to. I try, but it's really hard.
yeah. No, I know. It's for me. I mean, how long does it take you between sort of finishing the book and releasing the book?
I guess it really just depends on the book. Um, for some books, it takes at least a couple weeks, maybe even a month after I'm done with it to get all the edits done or to make changes. If I decided, oh man, I need to rework this subplot. I need to do these things differently. But if it's a book where I've outlined it, or like this recent book where I've thought about the ending so long, I know exactly how I want it to go. I just have to get my thoughts onto the paper. I don't need that much time once it's done because I'm like, it's done. It's great.
Yeah, it's done. Just go
Yeah,
free.
exactly. Everybody needs to read it now because if I obsess about it, I'm just going to ruin it.
Yeah. Luke Chimlenko once said to me when I was first starting to write, he said the time to release your book is when you hate it the most. So yeah, you play with it, you play with it, and you make changes, and then you start hating it because you start fucking screwing about it. I like books made with aluminium armor. It's not fucking aluminum, you weirdos. Aluminium.
Yeah, I think I do prefer the British way to say that, but I'll probably always be American and be like, it's aluminum.
There's
Although,
lots of things I can put up with, but fucking aluminum.
Jay did ask, or he said, okay, so I admit I haven't read your stuff yet. So where do I
Yes.
begin?
So
Um, I mean, I guess, so I would say my Nightmare Arcanist, because it's now my completed series. But Nightmare Arcanist is like YA fantasy. I mean, as long as you like things like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, I mean,
which
it's
there's
in
a
that.
hell of a market for,
Yeah.
clearly.
Well, I love those types of things, so this is why I write it. I love those like YA adventures where we're going on, stuff. I really love like Pokemon, Digimon, any sort of monster taming, familiar type stuff. So it's basically just Harry Potter meets Pokemon. Like that's
What?
what I wrote. So I hope if you really like those types of things, that's what's there. Like,
Well, I've tried, like I say, Academy Arcanist, and I really enjoyed that. So I know I'll like it.
yeah.
So have we? Can we get Geneva? Could you put a link on to the series? To is it Nightmare Arcanist? You said.
Yeah,
Book yet?
Nightmare, but with a K,
Yeah.
like a knight in shining armor,
Yeah.
mare. That kind of. So yeah, so it's Nightmare Arcanist.
Is Nightmare? Is it the same as in Academy? As in
Uh,
the
yeah, the Academy Arcanist has a nightmare. Like
yeah
the twins and the one
yeah
twin has a nightmare. Yeah. The main character of the Nightmare Arcanist series has a nightmare as his familiar,
yeah
basically. Yeah. So I really really like that creature.
yeah
Um,
definitely.
There so a lot of the creatures in my books are just based off of real world, like, creatures that you could hear of. Well, one of the more popular ones that everybody loves is the Wendigo, and
Hmm.
that's like a wolf. In Native American, like, mythology, it's a wolf that's like a person who is a cannibal turned into.
Hmm.
So
Thank
it's
you,
a
Jamie.
freakish cannibal monster. So in my world, like, the Wendigo is like a flesh-eating kind of creature, and it gives you like death abilities, basically. Like, that's the kind of magic you get for bonding with it. And that a pirate had bonded with a Wendigo, and so he was one of the villains in the books, type of thing. So most of the creatures are based off of real world myths, unicorns, things like that. But there are like a handful of creatures I made up because I
Yeah.
wanted s- cool specific powers or something. And the nightmare, like this empty suit of armor, the shadow creature is like my creation specifically to get these types of powers in there because there aren't that
Yeah.
many mythological creatures that are, shadowy and cool. But also the little Rizzle, so the teleporting
Hmm.
ferret, that was also something that I made up for the book series because I really like ferrets and I really like teleportation abilities. And again, it's really hard to find a myth, like an actual real world myth creature that deals with teleportation.
Yeah.
Um, and there's another creature called an ethereal whelk, and it's like a little snail, and it's like a dream snail. Um, So yeah, again, in one of those moments where I'm like, wow, I really want dream powers, and it's a little hard to find a creature that isn't super kooky. I know that sounds crazy, but there are some Chinese myth characters that are really cool, and they have like cool dream powers, but also they're here to eat your soul or something. Like they're evil in a
Yeah,
lot of the myths, and I'm like, well, I don't really want a soul sucking creature for my happy, fun character in the background, so I'm just gonna
yeah,
make something up.
the way to do it. No, that's definitely the way to do it. I really like just the nightmare, especially because I found that to be a brilliant mechanism. I was like, yeah, I really so yeah, that'll work for me. I won't say to anybody what this is about. So try it seriously, people. Get out there. Well, I know that's from Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah, whelks are real world creatures, but I must admit, I was introduced to whelks through video games. There was a video game called Breath of or not Bre- yeah Breath of Fire 4
Hmm.
on the like PlayStation, and they had whelks that were like magical that you could ride on. Like they flew, like they floated, so you were just riding a snail across like plains and stuff. And I remembered as a kid, I was like, "Whoa, my mind is blown."
Yeah.
um, so I've liked whelks ever since that moment, basically.
See, it's weird because whelks are one of those weird little snacks that you can get like in England,
Oh,
primarily in seaside towns. You can get like how you can get like chips, like fries that you have in like a container. You can get whelks in some places. That's just fucking weird. It's not for me. Like I'm
well,
definitely not, but you know,
I guess you can get escargot and stuff like that there, right? I mean,
that's France, and you know they're pretty fucked up people. You know, let's face it. Oh, this is small, slimy, and crawling across a wall. Let's eat it.
well, I mean, to to each their own. Some
Yeah,
people like to eat caviar too.
yeah,
You.
yeah, yeah. The world's pretty fucked up. Chips are not fries. Chips are better.
Oh my
Proper
god.
chips, proper English chips are fucking fantastic, my son. Chips, American chips, are crisps. That's all they are. You've got the name totally wrong. There's only like what, 330 odd million of you that are out there. You're all wrong. There's like 50 million of us over here, and we're right. That's the way it is. Just accept it. I
Yeah.
actually had an argument with somebody not that long ago. An argument, I just started laughing with somebody on the internet a while ago who was complaining that the English speak English and how we should all get our own language rather than copying off Americans.
Oh man, the gross misunderstanding of
And
history.
then you just like, yeah,
I used to teach history in a college level, um, and I remembered thinking to myself, like, "Oh man, the elementary school systems have failed everybody because there were so many instances of, well, that's not how that worked, but
yeah,
okay." Like, Hitler started both world wars. That was in an essay that I once read, and I was like, "Oh no." Thought this was basic stuff everybody learned. Hitler was only in one world war, you guys.
yeah. There's some strange stuff in schools, really. You know?
Yeah.
I, yeah, it's as a perfect example. I was sent to a Catholic school. Okay, I was the only non-Catholic in the entire school, which was a wonderful experience, I can tell you. So we got an example of of sort of trials and the way things worked. So I was put on trial for being a non-Catholic, and I was given the absolute lunatic in my year. You know, the one that every class every year has. That's like he's been drinking glue and sniffing God knows what for the entire year. Doesn't know what planet he's on. And
Oh
then
my
you've got
god.
like the really intelligent people. So I had him as my defense lawyer. I think I was set up.
Oh my
But then
god.
it recently came out that I found this absolutely hilarious that our school chaplain has been having or had been arranging sex parties in his cathedral.
Oh my god. Uh,
Not children, not underage stuff, nothing
yikes.
like that. But he'd been arranging sex parties, and I was just like,
Oh,
"This
oh,
is
so
brilliant."
consenting adults would
But
show up?
like years and years later, this was only a few years ago, and he was a school chaplain when I was at school, so he's in his 50s
Oh.
and 50s, 60s. But apparently, he was organising parties. I was like, it's just legendary.
Yeah.
Good high five it was.
Yeah, God.
So yeah, our schools kind of failed us a little bit as well. Produced some strange things.
Oh man. Um, I don't have anything that fun or scandalous from my school. It was mostly just boring. um, although I was an attorney for a little while too, and one of those like I'm just a grab bag of all things. Yeah. Used to do defense work and family law, and
Mm.
nothing is as terrible as no law, any law work is as terrible as family law. That's just soul sucking, terrible work right there. And I'm really glad to be an author now because Jesus Christ, nobody wants to be a family law attorney. Nobody. I don't care what anybody says. They don't know. They don't know the terrible horrors of family law.
Just families. I mean, families are pretty fucked up. Just think about how many fights you get around, Christmas and so on. All the fallouts when all the family gets together. Nah.
Hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. Good one, Brian. Thanks. I appreciate that, mate. From now on, that is your job, son. You need to catch people up. So
I
this,
think somebody asked if Nightmare Arcanist had a skill tree.
yep, Zach.
Um, yeah. Um, So it isn't a skill tree, but every arcanist, when you bond with a creature, there are several ways to use the magic. So there's evocation and manipulation and augmentation, and each creature has a different one of those. So if you bonded with a nightmare, for example, um, it evokes terrors, like it can frighten people, and it manipulates darkness and shadows and and things like that. And its augmentation is that it can give people the ability to see in the dark. So every creature has a completely different set of these types of powers, and that those three are just examples. There's technically lots of other powers that they all grant, and there are tiers of creatures. So the smaller, weaker creatures like a will-o-wisp, well, technically it can evoke fire, like a will-o-wisp arcanist can evoke fire. It's not as powerful as like a phoenix arcanist, even though they also have fire
Yeah,
evocation. So, um, you know, they have the same evocation, but the power is on a much smaller scale. So sometimes people in universe want to get the strongest type of creature, as opposed to a really weak creature. Um, as far as evolutions, I mean, I guess it's a major plot point in my Nightmare Arcanist series, but there is a so you can get a creature, and you could transform it into its true form. So, for example, like a unicorn, like its true form would be more like an alicorn type of creature. So, a unicorn is like a horse with a horn, right? And then an alicorn is like a horse with a horn and wings. um, so all the creatures also have true forms of themselves, and if you exemplify the characteristics of the creature, you can get the true form. So I guess you could
evolve
evolve
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. um. So yeah.
Well, I like I say, I've tried the Academy one, and I really enjoyed that story. So I'm looking forward to this. So I'm definitely gonna try these ones. I each time you see unicorn, every time you see unicorn, I have to just laugh. I, you know how it is in the early days of any relationship where you trust each other and you believe each other. And I managed to convince my wife Chrissy that unicorns were real, but the difference is that they just, they evolved. Some
Into
evolved
normal
into the water.
horses.
Well, some of them evolved into the water. They sort of went that way in narwhals, and the others just put a lot of weight on and became rhinos. And she believed me, and I should get it all out with a straight face. And she started to tell people at work that she didn't know this. And yes, they occasionally message me now, bump into them occasionally at work when we're out and about, and they're from her old work, and they're all like, "I remember when you did that."
There's a
It's probably
Facebook
Chrissy.
meme that's like a unicorn and then assault unicorn, and it shows a picture of a rhino, and then like
Yeah,
the sea assault unicorn is the narwhal. So yeah, it's almost like you took that meme and you were like, this is historically accurate.
yeah. You've got to fuck with your partner with things like that. You are, yeah, that is Chrissy. Like an accident in the sleep tonight. It won't be the first time you tried to kill me.
I thought she was taking a shower.
Yeah, well, maybe she's finished already, you know?
That
It's
2 hour long shower. Yeah.
yeah, she's probably come out to get a drink or something and going back in. I'm still convincing people that Riverdance summons leprechauns. Yeah, you can probably get away with that one.
That would
I
be
wonder if you can get
fantastic.
away with that at Dragon Con. So I really convince people that my phone is waterproof, so you're probably in the shower. Oh well, planning an accident.
There we go.
Love you too, darling.
That's adorable.
Yeah,
Um,
too well. I've
I
got a bit of tangent there.
I told you I was an attorney.
Mhm.
Occasionally I've told people as a joke. I immediately corrected them afterwards. Just fake legal things. Like I'm like, it's totally illegal to do X, Y, and Z. It's illegal to buy bread on Sunday, in this one city because of their municipal laws and stuff like that. People will be like, and I'm like, no, why would you ever think that was true? But yeah, it's funny if you can say things with a straight enough face, people will be
Oh
like,
yeah.
yes, definitely.
The weirdest thing is that obviously in England, because of how old the nation is, we have laws that are still in place that have never been repealed that are fucking insane.
Yeah,
Like
common
properly,
law, common
yeah.
law in the UK is
We
pretty.
in the city of York, which is sort of one of our old sort of walled cities, it's entirely legal to kill a Scotsman after 11 p.m. if they're within the city walls.
Oh
It's
my.
still, I mean, obviously, if you actually did it, you'd end up in court. It would never hold up in, as a defence. But it's still, according to the law, legal to kill a Scotsman after 11 p.m. It's
Yeah,
just like, what the fuck?
the
You
the
think somebody
U.S.
was trying to go read through it and go, let's just scratch that one off. That's a bit fucking stupid. No.
In law school, we had to learn most of the common law because the United States legal system is based off the UK. And the UK uses the like stare decisis rules, so it means that a law is basically on the books until it is contradicted. So,
Hmm.
you would kill a Scotsman and then you would go to court and then they would be like, wait a minute, this law is terrible. And then they would change it type of thing. And that's how the US did a lot of their, I mean, we still kind of do that. Our court cases and court rulings, you all have we have a decision afterwards, like where the judges write their why they did what they did, or why they denied it, why they approved, type of thing, and we use that to basically correct or amend or change laws. So
Yeah. I approve of that one. Brian, I love that. I want to be head of a university by dueling. Do I have to do it with certain weapons though? Because I mean, I'm shit with a sword, but if I can just punch somebody,
well, are you allowed to bring a gun? Because that's the only way I would I'd ever win any duel. Got
yeah.
weak noodly arms.
I really like there's a band that, called Ailstorm, and most people won't have heard of them. Pirate fucking metal. They're absolutely batshit crazy. One of their videos recently, they all sort of get handguns and they're all just running around shooting each other. And one of them runs at one of the others with a sword, and he just fucking shoots him in the face. And it's just always like the old Indiana Jones films, like way bang, fuck off.
Yeah, I love that joke. That's a
Yeah,
fantastic joke.
I always like shit like that where you just like, nah.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, back on track a bit. Nightmare Arcane, as you said, it was young adult fantasy. How young adult would you say?
Um, I guess I always compare it to Harry Potter because I feel like the format is a little more like Harry Potter. So the first book is a little bit younger than the next book, because it gets older as Harry Potter gets older. The content of the stories, gets more mature along with him. And so I
Mm.
guess it would be like that. My books start when the main character is 15, but the first book is definitely more like I just recently became 15 and I'm gonna do some cool things. And then the second book, he's fighting a dread pirate. You know what I'm saying? Like it escalates in
Yeah.
maturity and stakes up until the final book in which we're doing crazy things, but it's so fun because it's a cool adventure. Um, so yeah. Third graders. My books have been picked up by several schools, like middle schools. So I typically tell people if you're going to give it to a kid, it would be a middle school aged kid. I don't know if 8 or 9 year olds would. I mean, if they read a whole bunch, if they already read Harry Potter or Percy Jackson, I'm sure they could read it. But I guess I would suggest like middle school kids and older, just because there's a lot of violence, like we're fighting pirates type of thing, not like
Yeah.
the conflict isn't am I going to get to class on time? The conflict is, wow, some pirates are doing some really evil things like stabbing people to death, and we should probably stop that guy. That kind of stakes and conflict. Again, if an 8 or 9 year old can handle it, if an 8 or 9 year old are reading those types of books, that's fine. But I wouldn't just say generically 8 or 9 year olds would like this. It might be too spoopy type of thing.
Yeah. I loved swords growing up. My father really built up Indiana Jones, the greatest sword fight of all time. So when I watched it, I was devastated but couldn't stop laughing. Such a great moment. Nice.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, the best sword fight I've seen in a movie, I think, is probably The Princess Bride, just because I really liked that um, the moment where they switch hands. I
Hmm.
saw that even as a little kid, and I was like, like, just gasping. That wasn't even their, that wasn't their proper hand that they were fighting with. My God.
I
But
love
yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, it always. I've got to admit though, it does annoy me when I see any kind of like old films like that, or these kind of things, and all it is they're fighting with fucking swords. Everybody's fighting with swords because somebody a couple of years ago decided, oh, swords look cool, and in reality, most of them had like spears and axes and shit because swords were crap against most of the fucking things they were fighting against, and you're like, why? It's so much more fun with fucking axes and hammers and fun weapons like naganatas.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think probably my favorite weapon of all time when I was younger, I thought spears were the coolest thing ever because they had such a long reach. Like in my mind, I
Mhm.
was like, oh man, like with a spear, you could hit a dude from several feet away. Take that. Um, when I took history, like when I got my degree in history, I realized that most weapons were either they were really easy to make, like the components are really easy to make. So spears obviously require a lot less work than a sword. So they are a little bit more common. You know what I'm saying? I didn't realize what mauls and hammers were for until I took history either. I just thought like, oh man, you got a hammer, you bash someone around with a hammer, that's cool. But they came up because they needed ways to deal with heavy plate armor. And you can't poke it with a spear, and swords don't really do much against it, but a hammer will break it basically, or dent it or bash it in such a way that it'll harm the person wearing it and knock them from their horse and stuff. And I always thought that was super cool too. It's really hard to write stuff like that into books though.
Yeah,
I have been burned one too many times by putting in like really historically accurate things because it's a little too obscure, you know what I'm saying? Like I'll be like, so just a tangent. I wrote a series set in World War One with sorcerers, like secret
hmm,
sorcerers in World War One.
right.
And in order to write that book, I read a bunch of letters that soldiers wrote to their families to
Hmm.
like get a feel for how it was in the trenches in World War One. And there were tons of letters where guys in the UK, sorry, since you're in the UK, but this was funny. Um, they wrote being like, all of our officers are insane and stupid because they insist on doing war like back in the old days. So every single officer wears shiny boots, a shiny hat, a beautiful jacket, completely different than the rest of the soldiers on the battlefield. So enemy snipers know exactly who they are, and they
Hmm.
have been sniping the officers. But the officers keep doing it because they're like, I'm better than all you. I get my fancy boots and stuff like that. And so in my book, I wrote about how the UK officers were being pompous and wearing the beautiful, cool, flashy gear, and then getting shot by snipers because that's what happened in real life. And I thought that was an interesting tidbit. Like I was like,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah,
Anyway, I got several 1-star reviews where people were like, this person doesn't know anything. Nobody would wear shiny boots and hats that identified them as an officer if they were getting shot by snipers. And I was like, God dang
yeah.
it, that's a real life. That's an actual thing that happened. Like, so sometimes I don't put in like let's like really historically accurate things. If I think to myself, someone's gonna hate this.
I've started putting in mine things like, little comments aside, like somebody started going through all my books, marking things like everywhere I had floor as this should be ground and feeding it back. But some of them really should have been. I just used it because in the UK we use floor a lot more than Americans do. And that was just something that slipped through the editing cycle that I didn't really realize it. But they also mentioned that things like cave floor should be cave ground, the sea ground rather than sea floor, things like that. So I commented in one of my recent books, saying at the end of it, there's something about the floor. I could change that. I should probably refer to that as the sea, as the ground or something. But fuck people who complain about this kind of shit. Just sort of like a little bit of fourth wall break. Let's see who gets that one. Hey, Denny, you all right, dude? See, Denny is like an institution, isn't he? He's been around all of Lit RPG forever.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, when I was first starting, I was told like, "Oh, Denny likes your book," and I was like, "Right."
Yeah, he's great.
No. If Denny likes your book, you're all right. And I was like, "What's this?" All good, Denny. All good.
The word that I always got corrected for in my books, which is again another historically accurate thing that I put in there and I almost regret, is I talked about how people fueled their furnace with coke, COKE.
Yeah,
and it's just a
and
type
people
of charcoal.
thought it was yeah.
I got that flagged as a typo so many times. Just one person flagged it with a typo and wrote a note because apparently in like the Kindle, when you submit a thing, you can submit a correction. Somebody submitted it with a note that said, "What is this, a party town? LOL. I don't think that's what you meant." And I was like, not cocaine, you guys. Like what?
Yeah. This would be an expensive fucking fire. Imagine the fumes. You'd be sitting there like that.
Later in books, if I use coke, I specifically then go out of my way to put a sentence to be like coke, the type of charcoal.
Yeah.
I did this intentionally. Don't flag it as a typo. But yeah, that's just one of those weird stuff as an author.
It's weird. Yeah, there's sometimes you do get sort of honestly, people. Let's say this from the heart. If you find typos, please do reach out to us as authors. Send us a message and let us know, please, because we'd rather fix it. We'd always rather fix it than just leave it with a typo. But if you highlight it and feed it back to Amazon, they don't tell us. So they don't go, "Hey, by the way, here's an email. You've got all these typos." What they do is they just sort of collect a bunch of them and then put it on a back system that says, "You've got problems here. You need to fix them." But that back system isn't something we normally go on to unless there's a reason. And it doesn't give us any kind of a warning, any kind of an alert that it's there. And if it's on there for a certain period of time, like say there's 20 typos it's found, and it's on there for 2 weeks, you then get quality warnings on your books. And if you don't fix it then, Amazon then pulls your book from sale. And we have no clue about any of this. Unless we go and we search for these things specifically ourselves, we have no fucking clue. So please always message us directly and tell us if you can. And if you do report it through Amazon, that's totally fine. If you've been doing it that way all this time, totally fine. But please, if possible, message us directly. It really does help. But either way, we'd rather find the typos and fix them. What, speaking personally, I would prefer not to have, however, is every so often people put those little, as you were talking about, that little message that you put, "I think the word you mean is this," underneath it. Because there's somebody that keeps doing this, and it's always something fucking stupid. And I'm like, really isn't. The word I mean is the one I fucking used. Now, 9 times out of 10, obviously, we get like stuff fed back to us, and it's fucking, and you're like, "Oh, I can't believe I fucking did that. I can't believe that made it through." Stupid things that get through, and we would really, really would find them. But come on, please, don't be a dick with it. I'm not asking a lot here. Happy birthday to Paul's kid, Paul's nephew. Yes, that's why Paul has been remarkably quiet. I have a good laugh at some of the typo checks. Yeah. The
Well,
cool nephew, not the crazy one.
I've had typos, and I do like it when people point them out because I do want to correct them.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Apparently, it's industry standard to have one typo per 10,000 words in a manuscript. Um, but I
that's
don't.
after all of the typos. That's after your editors. That's after
Yeah,
proofreaders. That's after everybody. That's the standard.
yeah, that's the industry standard that's acceptable. Like for example, the first Harry Potter book. There's an entire Wikipedia dedicated to the typos that were in the like first couple Harry Potter books because it was just riddled with a bunch of typos and like weird continuity inconsistencies and stuff like that. Um, but that went through all of the editors and all this other kind of stuff published by a major publishing house and they considered that acceptable because that was within their parameters of we allow this many typos. You can't find them all. But as a crazy, neurotic lunatic that constantly stresses about everything, if somebody is like, "Man, I think you put that comma in the wrong spot," I'm like, "Oh my god, I put that comma in the wrong spot. I better change the whole manuscript.
Yeah.
Gotta fix that."
It's weird some of the stuff that gets through as well because we'll have written it and say the sentence is like this long, and the editor comes along and goes, what I'll do is I'll break that one at the period there, so there's a comma instead of a period. I'll put a period in, and then I'll change this bit here. But when they come through, when it comes back to us, it's like this mess of red where they've made alterations and stuff, and we're like, okay, right, we'll approve this, we'll not approve. And what you end up with is everything so often slips through is like half a word, like clearing or something that's ing on the end, and clear has been wiped out, and we've just got ing dot comma, and it means nothing to anybody. It absolutely makes no sense to anybody, and we find it's there, and we're looking at it going, "What the fuck? How did that get through?"
Yeah, that happens. That's the constant bane of being an author and going through several rounds of edits is that those types of things happen. The thing that happens with me is somebody will do exactly what you said. There's a sentence, it's like a compound sentence, so it had a comma, and somebody will be like, actually, you need to have a period. But the compound sentence will be something like, you know, he was talking to his sister and running at the same time, or something, something like that. And
Yeah,
then it'll be a period. It'll be like he's talking to his sister, and then he ran off to go do something. Only running and ran wasn't switched, so now there's just a sentence that's
and he
like,
running off to do something. Yeah,
yeah, it's just completely grammatically incorrect because it used to be a part of a bigger sentence that made sense, and now it's its own, and it never got corrected. And you're like, God dang it! Like, God, typos, my bane.
Yeah,
What is your favorite part of the writing process? So I really like to imagine certain scenes in my books. I'm sure lots of authors do this too, but like for me, it's like endings. I love the endings to books. Cool book endings are my favorite part of reading in general because that cool climax, that's what she said. You know what I'm saying? Like that part of the book is so awesome. I love it. So I think about that scene forever and I can't wait to get to it. I can't wait to write it like that. I just look forward to it. That's my favorite part of the writing process. These epic scenes that I envision in my head, finally transcribing them to paper. Like they're trapped, like they're in a prison in my skull, and I need to get them out. They all need to have a jailbreak onto the page so that other people can experience them. Because I'm like,
yeah.
oh man, that's my favorite part by far is writing those really cool epic scenes.
Do you visualize all of the book as you go through? Is it like watching a film for you?
Yeah, if I'm writing all by myself, like a lunatic, I probably act out the scenes to myself, like where I I say all the character lines and be like, or even have facial expressions that probably match whatever the facial expressions of the characters are in that scene. Um, so I probably look like a lunatic, like an absolute lunatic that has like people trapped in my head. But yes, I do. I visualize everything. I super love it. I love reading it aloud so that I can kind of hear it and visualize it again. Like I'm just that's how I do. Like an insane person.
I partially act out fights because it's always, for me, it's sort of like, right, so you move, you twist, and because you're trying to put that in your mind, and sometimes if you just write it, you end up finding that actually, wait a minute, you can't bend like that. Like you can't do a strike across there. It's a strike across there instead, and but yeah. So I probably look like a lunatic as well because that's the only part I'll say it's the only part I act out. But I'll be sitting there, be like, wait a minute, so
Well, I don't do it in front of other
yeah,
people, only when
yeah,
I'm alone.
yeah,
But I know that once I'm done writing and I've been over here being like, that I'm like, man, Shami, you look insane. Like if anybody
yeah.
were recording this. Hmm. What scene did I enjoy writing the most? Actually, if you ask me this question, it's always basically a scene from the last book I just wrote because it's like the freshest in my mind. But I just finished the Nightmare Arcanist series. The last book came out, Grandmaster Arcanist, and I guess another creature that I made up for that series is called the Apoc Dragon. Um, and I was really looking forward to writing the scene with the Apoc Dragon for the entire 8-book series. So I always know the ending to all of my books and all my series. I know exactly how they'll end. And I knew that I was going to have this creature here, even though I didn't mention it until like the 4th book in the series, or maybe the 3rd book, really. I think it's mentioned for the first time in the 3rd book. But I've been looking forward to this scene for quite some time. Finally got to write it not too long ago. So I feel like that's probably my favorite scene that I've written. Really enjoyed that scene. So
Do you find that when you're writing, once it's written, it's gone from your head?
no, definitely not. That scene was really, really difficult to write. I don't want to give a bunch of spoilers. I guess that's why I'm not detailing the scene for everybody
Mhm.
because one, it requires the context of the series to be impactful, and two, it's just riddled with spoilers. Um, so I thought it was so emotionally impactful, and I think I wrote it in such a way that it was emotionally impactful that it'll be with me for a long time. Even rereading this scene because I reread it after the book released because I went through and read a couple of scenes I wanted, and I'm over here fucking tearing up, being like, "Oh my god!" So I don't think it'll leave me. All of my favorite scenes never really leave me. Sometimes I think the mundane scenes leave me. Like
Mm.
I'm like, oh, I stopped. And when I go through the editing process, somebody will be like, Shami, you contradicted yourself. You said in this scene that, there were 3 of
Yeah,
them. Now you said there were 4 of them. And I'm like, dude, God, fuck. I forgot. I forgot that I said there were 3 of them because that scene's just, whoosh.
yeah.
But the scenes that are really impactful, no, I never forget those ones. Like those, those, those are beautiful.
For me, when I reread in the editing cycle, so when it comes back to me at the very end, then I usually sort of go through, or if I reread before, when I'm writing the next book, I'm reading it and I'm going, I don't fucking remember any of this shit. There's entire sections I'm just like, don't know where that came from. And people ask me questions, and they're going, "Oh, so when you did this and this and this and this happened, was that because of?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I planned that.
Yeah, that was all. That was all from the beginning. I knew what I'm doing.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I fucking didn't. I didn't. I just drink."
Ah, oh man, what inspired you to write? Um, so I guess if anybody knows me even a little bit, I at least have mentioned this a couple times. I grew up really, grew up really poor, and in a pretty bad life situation. I really liked reading, and playing video games as kind of an escape from real
Right.
life. I like, and in all seriousness, I really, really like stories of heroes and people who do good things against evil. I have a few friends who are like, "Oh, that's so boring and lame." I really like stories about, the evil guy being evil or something like that. And I don't like that at all just because I really like to imagine that there is good in the world and that good is rewarded for being good, like just virtuous heroes against evil.
Mhm.
So when I read those books, I felt like, man, like this is so cool. This is so amazing. I love the hero's journey. I love defeating the villain. I love all of this like beautiful, glorious stuff that I didn't really have in real life. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
um, I'm inspired to write because I loved it so much, especially when I was growing up, like in those formative years.
Hmm.
I it really filled my life with happiness. So I
Definitely
really like,
an escape.
yeah, I really like doing it now. It's an honor to be able to do it.
It really, really is. Um, when you look at the way that your stories touch people as well, when you think that evil will always triumph because good is dumb. Spaceballs, yes, fucking brilliant film. Um, you find that I know. Obviously, it sounds like you know exactly what I mean. Growing up, when you had your place to retreat to escape from everything in your books and in your games and stuff, and that's why we're gamers. That's why we love to read so much, because growing up, this was your happy place. This was how you dealt with everything around you. And when somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, that really touched me when you did such and such," or "Hey, I love this book. I'm going through a shitty time and read this, and it was just a great distraction." And people, I touch you, Ed, and you like it. But people say like, "Oh, you won't understand," but it really helped, and I just wanted to say it. So, and it's like, no, we fucking do understand, and it really means a lot to us that we can do that. You know, ideally, anybody reading our stories is lying on a fucking beach somewhere. Sun's great. You've got booze next to you, lots of sex later on, probably sex this morning, great food, drinks, everything. Fucking get in there. In the real world, that is very rare. If
That's
we
true.
can give you a little bit of an escape just for a little bit, it's fucking wonderful. You feel
Yeah.
like, we when we do things like that, it's an escape for us as well. We get seriously nice to be able to help people and to also have you have a good laugh. Fuck it. We want you to enjoy your lives.
Yeah.
Sounds like Ed was at
Yeah.
the Chaplin sex party. Well, we weren't going to talk about that party. Not much anyway, because, Ed, he's a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
Exactly why I started reading to get my fucked up home. Yeah, it is.
That's why I started reading. It's just to escape, and I really like I really like that escapism, and I'm really honored that I can give it to other people too. And I guess that's what I want to do is I want to revel in the fun that it is. You know what I'm saying? Like it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be a good time. I want it to be fun, and I want you to walk away from it being like, wow, you know what? Life is just a little bit better
Better than I
having,
was.
yeah,
Yeah,
having read that. So,
that's what it's all about. Yeah, I like to write dark stories where it's sort of it's because that's the way that the world is really for me. It's growing up, it was always dark. It was always a bit fucking violent, and to have that because none of my heroes are heroes. They're all like borderline villains. They're all borderline anti-heroes who are just trying to do the right thing. Because I think that's where a lot of us really are, and especially a lot of the military that I know, a lot of the guys that have served know the fight of being trying your very very best to be the good guy because you know damn well you could be the bad guy and it will be much easier.
mm,
And I think it's Terry Pratchett once wrote about Granny Weatherwax and how she basically made sure she was always the good witch, and she hated it because she really wanted to be the bad witch, and she knew she'd be fucking brilliant at it, and she never allowed her to do that. And it's like, fucking, that man got me. Those stories were just yes, yeah. You send a monster to kill a monster. Yeah, getting in the lit RPG community has been such a change from reading in the past. I think mainly because the vast majority of you authors are approachable, just as weird as the rest of us. It makes me feel part of the group and not just some nerd outcast anymore. Yeah, you're one of us, Jay, mate. You good. You good.
um, Denny asked us what our favorite book to
Yes.
read was.
Ooh.
So,
Well,
is your favorite book a Terry Pratchett book?
I absolutely loved Terry Pratchett growing up. I haven't read any of them in years, but I've got them all up here. I loved them. Absolutely loved them.
Right.
I don't know what my favorite book is at the moment, to be perfectly honest with you. My favorite series is probably The Wheel of Time. Always will be, despite sort of the issues that I know are in it, the sort of extra extended bits, the changes and so on. But the change from such callow sort of children essentially who are coming off the mountain and then to who they are at the end, the growth, especially Matt, is I just love those characters. I absolutely love that series. What about you?
Um, so this is difficult for me too because I like certain books for certain reasons, like really specific reasons. So when I was younger, I think my love of really cool endings, like that climax that you can't possibly get anywhere else, that's super cool into a book, probably came from Ender's Game because it did blow my mind when I read it as a little
Yeah.
kid. Like I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. So when I think of Ender's Game, I think I really like that book for the ending. But I must admit, like 80% of the novel itself, like I forgot until I reread it again. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really liked the Dragon Riders of Pern, almost specifically for that prologue. I don't know if you've ever
Mhm.
read those books, but the prologue is probably the best written prologue I've ever seen in my life. It
Yeah.
is so excellent, the world building that is done in such a very short period of time. Again, my mind was blown because it is a fantasy world that's basically set up with sci-fi rationale and like
Mhm.
all the sci-fi reasoning, and then
Mhm.
like all these people who landed on a planet, and then the AI fucking disappeared because of all the disasters and the threat and shit like that. And I'm like, my god, mind blown. um I really like Robert A. Hyland's A Stranger in a Strange Land, and I don't know if you've read that because it's pretty,
Don't think I've read that one.
yeah, it's old sci-fi, but I really liked that book because it was so different in its worldview. There was
Mhm.
there's a main character who's like, man, we should live free and happy with one another, and as long as you're not hurting somebody else, you should just let people live and let everybody just enjoy life. And it was so cool and it was so amazing, and I really really loved it. That it's probably my favorite in terms of like message, like where it has
Mhm.
something really deep to say, even
Yeah.
though the story itself is not particularly exciting. Some guy comes back from Mars and then everybody is upset because maybe he owns Mars. But, so the story itself, not a lot happens, but the actual theme of it is like, whoa. And obviously, books like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson or things like that, the adventure is what really gets
Mhm.
me, where I'm like, whoa, we're on an adventure. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so fun. So I guess, this was too complicated of an answer. It depends on what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. If I want to read
Yeah.
a book where I guess I cry hysterically, I'm going to read Where the Red Fern Grows. You know what I'm saying? Because that book
Yeah.
will make me cry every single time I've ever read it. If I want to read a book where the ending is just, oh, I can't really recapture Ender's Game ending anymore. That's too based off of the twist. You know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
um, if I want action and romance, as Denny over here is saying in the comments, there's a book series called the Black Jewels Trilogy. It's probably a terrible example of this because it's very dark, but I did like it for its action and romance. So if I wanted action and romance, I'd read that series. So yeah, I have favorite books depending on what I feel like I want to read in the moment.
There's God, you've made me think of a series. I can see it in my mind, but I'm buggered if I can find it. Who was that lunatic that came up with Scientology?
Oh, the guy who wrote
L. Ron
Battlefield
Hubbard.
Earth. Yeah, L.
Yeah.
Ron Hubbard.
Okay, L. Ron Hubbard wrote, leaving everything else aside, he was a brilliant author. And he wrote a series. It's 10 books. It starts with something like the Black Genesis or something like that. And it's set in, this was written in like the 70s. So please take this entire series with a pinch of salt. Some of the way that it's written is definitely not appropriate and good in this now new world as we're in. But it's very sardonic and it's very twisted. So he takes the world and it does a Pratchett and it flips it around, and that there's the alien invader who's here and he's being controlled by his handlers to come and take over and like to fuck the place up and to screw things around. But they think they're controlling him and they're like, it's fine. We'll tell him that he's trying to fix things, but really we're setting him up to fail. And he's actually doing the other way around. The group that he works for isn't these guys. He's sort of there to find out what they're up to, and he's actually trying to fix the planet. And so they're all sort of like there's all these little sort of backstories going on. It's going to bug the shit out of me. I think it's Black Genesis, the first book. But it is absolutely a brilliant series, and it is also really scary because if you look at the world the way that he obviously did, and when you see things from that side and the control and the drugs and stuff, and you're like, fuck. But it's also really hilarious, and there's action, there's romance and stuff. I'll hunt out what the hell it's from, and I'll definitely have to tell people. I think Denny would like it if nobody else did. What the hell is it?
Well, Stranger
Elrond.
in a Strange Land, I think, was written in the 60s. You know what I'm saying? So I read a whole lot of really old science fiction back
Yeah.
in the day. I really love, super love science fiction. Um, and especially the old, like, hardcore science fiction where it's basically more about philosophy than it is
Yes.
really about anything
Yeah.
else. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's so cool.
Definitely. What the
Mission
hell is it?
Earth.
Mission Earth. That's the Badger. Well done. I
Oh, that
was
was that was Geneva. Yeah, that wasn't me.
Mission.
I was just
Well done,
reading your
Geneva.
comment. Yeah.
Yeah. No, sorry, I was searching for it there as well. But yeah, Mission Earth. That is a brilliant series, and it's seriously fucked up as well. I mean, it was the 70s and the 80s, so the world was pretty fucked at that point, but we didn't know how fucked it was.
Um, didn't we have a fifth question for both Shammy and Jez? Favorite video game of all time, and if too hard, top 5.
Whoa. I don't know. I mean, Civilization is always going to be up there for me. I lose hundreds of hours into Civilization every single time they release a new one. And I have to say that I realized a few months ago that, when you're on Steam, you have sort of how many hours you've logged on a game. I have spent longer on Civilization 6, which is the Civilization game that I have played the least. I've spent more hours in that than our last Prime Minister lasted overall.
Oh my god! Wow.
But she's also nicknamed the romaine lettuce because she lasted less time than a romaine lettuce does.
Oh.
But that's not the point. It was a case of I've spent more time in this fucking game than you did in Rural the Country Pet. That will
Well,
always amuse me.
if we're going by playtime equals our favorite video games, then the Pokemon series does it for me. I've logged hundreds and hundreds of hours on Pokemon. I used to be a competitive player, so I would go to tournaments, have a competitive team. I don't want to bore you with all the super specifics, but in Pokemon, the numbers really, really matter. You have to breed your Pokemon so that they basically have the perfect numbers. You know, you got to train them so that they have the perfect numbers. You got to memorize move sets. I mean, there are like 900 plus of these bastards at this point. So it required a lot of time and dedication in order to even be in the competitive scene. And, I'm sad right now because I'm like, man, playing competitive Pokemon was so fun. But I know that if I got back into it, like there goes all of my free time, all
Yeah.
of it. Um, so yeah, I guess if we had to say whatever game we played the most of, that's our favorite. But I think my favorite, I guess my favorite top 3 would probably be Mass Effect, the very first one. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
that
ever
was
played
good.
Mass
That was
Effect.
good.
Yeah, it was it was so fun. I really love sci-fi settings in general. Like whoa, I'm really here for
Yeah.
sci-fi stuff. So I loved Mass Effect 1. Um, maybe I do have to go top 5 because I'm like, oh fuck, there's so many cool ones. I really liked Silent Hill 2. I'm an insano. I really love horror games and horror movies. So Silent Hill 2 definitely my mind exploded when I played that. Um, Final Fantasy 7 is definitely cool. I think the entire Final Fantasy franchise I was
Mhm.
obsessed with, especially when I was younger. Final Fantasy 7 definitely was another one of those and then my mind exploded because it was one of those first 3D games. You know what I'm saying? Where I was like, "Oh my god." Just recently, I guess if we want to talk more modern games that I've found to be super amazing, I really really liked Undertale. That one's a harder sell for people because it's probably too complicated for me to say why I liked it so much, but it was very meta and subversive
Mhm.
um, in a super fun way. So I recommend Undertale, but only to people who I think really, really like playing video games. Um, It has old school like 8-bit graphics, or maybe like 16 or 32-bit graphics, and I also really like that. I'm a sucker for pixel art. um, and I also really liked, and I know this is gonna sound insane, I really liked the Call of Duty series for the zombie play modes.
Mr. Fist.
Yeah. Again, maybe it's because I'm a history major. So in the Black Ops Call of Duty side quest things, you could play a zombie mode where it was like a wave defense, like there are zombies coming
Yeah,
at you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So in the first iteration of that, you're just in a shack, zombies attack you, who cares? In later iterations of these games, you could be on like the Titanic. Okay, like the Titanic is actively sinking. There are zombies that are like teleporting in or coming in from the sea onto the ship. And your goal, along with like 3 other people, is to gather these magical artifacts that are around on the Titanic to open up a portal so that you can escape the Titanic before it sinks or you're eaten by zombies. And I loved that so much. I probably played it just way too much. And I really liked almost how accurate they made the Titanic when you're just running around this looking for your stupid portal pieces. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa. It's so hard to describe to people because anytime I'm like, well, I really like that Call of Duty game, and people are like, you like that Call of Duty game? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, it was really fun, you guys. I
Yeah. No.
really liked it.
It was actually Helliger's. So Santa got me an Xbox for Christmas. Thank you, Santa. I dropped a lot of hints, and one of the first things that when I said I actually got it, hey, fantastic guys, the first things that Neil Helliger's narrator sort of put on it was we're having to have zombie fights on Call of Duty. I was like, yeah, fucking happening. So we're gonna have to arrange some zombie hunting missions. Definitely.
It
I
was
am looking forward to that.
probably my favorite. It was so great.
Some of the games that I like that I'm thinking back to Fallout.
Oh
Fallout.
yeah.
I think Fallout 3 was more though. Fallout 4 was a lot more sort of. It was basically Skyrim with guns, which
Oh
don't get
yeah.
me wrong, I absolutely loved it, but it wasn't really so much Fallout. It was more of hey, let's just put the skin over it. So I did enjoy that, and obviously Skyrim's fucking mend.
Chez, there's a settlement that needs your help. Sorry, Fallout
blowing
4.
up.
That dude, the number of people who like the phrases that were just repeated over and over in Fallout 4. You could romance all your companions, and I just remembered laughing out loud because at one point, if you romance, who is it? Is his name Clayton? Who is the guy who runs the Minutemen?
I think it's
Um,
Clayton. Yeah.
okay, so if you romance him, I mean, you literally roll out of bed. This guy rolls out of bed, and then he'll turn to you and be like, "There's a settlement that needs your help," and I'm like, "God damn it! Like, God, can you shut up about the settlements for like 2 seconds? Just no
Yeah.
more settlements, okay? We're not going to
Yeah.
talk about the
Fuck 'em.
settlements anymore."
Let them die. Fuck them all. I don't care.
Yeah, I think New Vegas was probably my favorite Fallout, though. I
Mm.
really super loved New Vegas. I was too into New Vegas to not.
Well, New
not have,
Vegas was more like the original Fallout in flavor and like how dark it was and twisted.
oh yeah, I absolutely loved it. I played it just probably way too much, but yeah, Fallout, man, chef kiss.
Yeah, I did absolutely love them. Sixth question: what games have you both been playing recently? What have you been playing?
Fire Emblem Engage is what I've been playing since it came out, like the last Thursday or so. I super love the Fire Emblem franchise too. I've played every single game in it. It's basically just fantasy anime chess. You know, it's a tactical RPG, so it's got the grid. You move the people around it. If you've ever
Yeah.
played Final Fantasy Tactics, it's that only like you run an entire army of anime main characters. Super love it. So that's what I've been playing.
For me, it's been Halo. It's been Cyberpunk 2077. I've just started that on the Xbox. Just haven't had time to play it on the PC really. And I've
Yay,
just
Three
started.
Houses. Sorry,
Yep.
the comment. Yeah,
No,
go
no,
on.
no, Brian knows his shit. So yeah, I've just been basically running around shotgunning people in the face. That's pretty much what I do in Cyberpunk.
Yeah, there you go. That's
I
fun.
like it the way that people are sort of, you can see them with like the little yellow symbol above their head saying that they're basically criminals standing around doing something dodgy. And it's like, aha, I have a criminal over there. I'm just going to walk right up. It's on 3 inches away and I'm going to put on my shotgun and go, ha ha ha, bang. These things just amuse me.
Denny, the Engage, I think the Engage gameplay is superior to Three Houses, but I must admit the story is not superior to Three Houses. Three Houses story and all the characters, lots of fun, lots of plot twists you don't see coming. In Engage, I mean there are plot twists, but they're comical or more anime is really how I would describe it. They are very anime plot twists, you know, things like everybody's got amnesia. Everybody is secretly your sibling. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like almost soap opera level plot twists where you're like, oh, okay. But it's fun as long as you don't mind any of that. I know that some people were like, I don't like it. I just want it to be realistic. And I'm like, it's okay. I've been having a great time with it.
But it's part of the fun, isn't it? You like the sort of the really bad ones at times. You like either the really good storylines or the really fucking terrible ones where you're like, I can't believe you fucking did that. I've got to see what happens next. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're just clicking through and you're like, whoa, that's crazy.
The decisions you make, but half the time it's like, no, this is a decision I would really make in real life. So I must make this one. And then the next decision is, I'm going to shotgun him in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Jess
a little
gets
bit.
it.
Yes. Martha, sorry. Basically, I've got a package on here that's waiting to be picked up and shipped, and the cat has decided that it is now her bed. Get off. Ship back.
That's adorable.
Yeah, I have 2 cats with me at the moment, and Ship Biscuit that you met earlier. So,
the little whippet.
Yeah.
Aw, look at how cute she is.
She does not approve. The other one's wandered off after I've scared her. What's in the package, Jez? It's not. It's definitely nothing, and it is definitely not illegal. Nobody needs to open this package or sniff it with dogs. Definitely not. No sniffer dogs.
A while back, Brian did ask. He wanted to read sci-fi lit RPG. Any recommendations? And I was going to say The Iron Prince because pretty sure.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a completed series. It's just the one book right now, but it's still, whoa.
Oh yeah. Let's think. There's a few different sort of sci-fi lit RPGs out there. Dawn Chapman did Space Seasons, for example.
Oh, yeah,
They go with that one. Kev Sinclair did Condition Evolution, which people, if you start book 1, you're not going to realize it's sci-fi straight away because it's such a mix of different things, but stick with it. Trust me on this. It's brilliant fun. What else have we got what have I read recently that was sci-fi? Actually, I'll tell you what I have been reading recently that isn't so much sci-fi, but it's just absolutely fucking brilliant. On Royal Road, Dawn of the Void by Peter W. Tucker. Started reading that, and that's fucking brilliant.
Nice.
He's the guy that did Bastion. Have you read that one?
I haven't read it, but I've at least seen it around. My TBR is now reaching like critical mass where I'm like, oh geez, I need to be reading faster. Everybody keeps just adding books, and the sad part is that some books get like fast tracked to the top. So like I'll have a buddy and he'll be like, oh, I have a book coming out and I really want you to read it before it comes out, and I'm like, oh okay, like I guess I'll read that one first. You know what I'm saying? And then 17 of those later, and I'm like, man, I still haven't chipped away at my TBR. You know what I'm saying? Like, God.
It's never ending. I mean, that's the thing. When I first started reading lit RPG, probably 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, there weren't many books out, and you sort of, especially because of the nature of the job I was doing at the time, it was mostly Audible. And so there were very few audios out of it. And so you'd be listening to the same ones over and over again. And now it's a case of you read it and you're like, fucking hell, there's so many more books out there all the time. Like, it's just fucking loads coming out.
Yeah.
it's wonderful, and yet it's also terrifying because there's so many books you just can't keep up. It's like whoosh, there's all these new authors and new books come out, and you're going, I don't know whether to celebrate or fucking panic.
Well, now it's the age of you can get the exact thing that you want, right? Like the niche where you're like, I want a female protagonist with time travel with fantasy. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, well, we got all the checks, and it's this book right over here. There we go, we got it. Whereas before, when you only had like a few, it's like, no, you can't get that. That doesn't exist. You're like, oh.
That was a weird one. You see it every so often, especially in the Lit RPG main group. You'll see sort of people say, "Oh, I'm looking for this, 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 this," and people go, "Oh, there you go. You've got, as you say, and you've got this list," and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
That
it
was like,
somehow checked all the boxes.
I mean, it wasn't. This person must be between 17 and 18 and three quarters. They must be able to fly. They must be left-handed, not like cheese, and be allergic to broccoli. And you go, "Oh, wow, how convenient he is." This.
Yep, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AI will fill every niche.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Have you seen AI writing? I mean, unless you
Yeah.
want the most circular
Yeah,
descriptions of all time.
I'm still stuck on the fingers.
Oh,
Is this AI art? Well, it has 47 fingers. Let's think. No, it's definitely not AI art. I want to make Dynasty. Easy wind up has a damaged brain, totally hot, crazy chick for power, and wildly inconsistent magic. Only has to use strange weapons.
feels like a reference.
I resent that. It's remarkably accurate. It does look rather familiar, but the thing is, that could be half a dozen books now as well.
Maybe. Denny asked you earlier too whether you preferred Civ 6 or Civ 5.
Probably 6, just because of the better graphics on it. I think it was which one? There was one of the Civs that came out that went really cartoony, and I absolutely hated that. It was a good game, but I absolutely fucking hated that one because it was so cartoony, and it was just too much. But I liked Civ 5 was better for the overall technical sort of effort you had to put in. But Civ 6, I don't have as much time now, so I get to have a good game still and feel like I've put good time into it. Without getting really annoyed and like going, oh, okay, I don't remember anything about this because I last played this 9 months ago.
Right.
Very much so. Shit Biscuit. He's bothering the cat.
Yeah, he's gonna run around the house like a racing dog, like the racing dog he is.
Yeah, he's what he'll do is soon he'll just start running around and bouncing off things, annoying the cats, and the cats basically just sort of put up with him with bad grace. So then they'll belt him, and he'll start screaming because they've hit him. And
Yeah.
it'll be like, well, is he actually hurt, or is he just being a little?
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, that's him having a go, and the cat's just sitting there going, "I'm gonna fucking hurt you. I'm gonna fucking hurt you." So, there we go. 7th question: have you ever written a scene that made you depressed or put you in a negative mood? If so, what scene was it? That's a good question, Denny. Go on then, Shami.
Yeah. I've written a couple scenes like this. If I'm gonna talk from my Arcanist series, just because I've talked about that one the most, there's a death scene in the 3rd book. Not really of any of the main characters. It's a fight to the death that the main character watches that happens in like a coliseum, and it did depress me. It depressed me because the main character is very depressed with the outcome. And yeah, Denny gets it. Denny knows what scene I'm talking about. It's really sad. And so anytime that I think about it, I get a little sad. I still get messages to this day, people being like, "No, I wish that scene had gone differently." And I'm like, it was important for the story. It's definitely not just sadness to be sadness, if that makes any sense. I don't
Yeah.
actually like sad porn.
Yeah.
Where people just want to revel in depression. But yeah, I have written a couple scenes like that where I'm just like, oh, geez, that's just sad. What about you, Jez?
Not so much. I'm quite a bastard, really. I don't really feel emotion and that like in the stories. I do. Nah, that's wrong. I do in the certain things like the end of Citadel when the brothers fight together. That scene meant a lot to me. When Lydia in my books, when she sort of she rises up, when she takes agency again and takes control of her life and deals with problems from her past, that meant a lot to me, the way that came out. And it was like, I'm writing this and I'm still going, this is fucking great. I mean, it might not be well written, but the feeling behind it was really genuine on my part. And those meant a lot to me. But the bad scenes really don't overly, because obviously I've written a scene. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. I've written a scene yesterday, Friday, where in what's going to be the new series, where she's where the main character loses a lot of his friends,
Oh,
and they're friends that some die, some are in a situation where they're not going to be around for a while, and I deliberately used to try and sort of get a bit more emotion into it and try and do it round. I deliberately used friends of mine in those positions
oh,
because it was a case of then I can really sort of see it. Because when we're looking at this, I don't know how you do it, but when I'm writing this, you're seeing it from the main character's point of view, because I do first person perspective. So it's always you're seeing through their eyes, you're seeing the world happening around you, you're seeing these people and everything else. So for me to put my friends in those situations and then see them being lost, and so it really does. It helps to create it, but equally it's sort of like I deliberately created this scene knowing that they're all that most of them are gonna die, and it's like it's a bit of a shitter, really. Never mind.
yeah, that'd be pretty depressing. In all seriousness, that would make me super sad.
Yeah. So, Shami, do you ever feel trapped by reader expectations? Like your stuff is YA, but did you ever want to write a scene that you revise or change because of your target audience? That's a good one.
Yeah, I just recently did it in Grandmaster Arcanist that released like a couple days ago. So the main character, Volk, has a relationship with a lady, and I wanted to write a scene where they were flirting, mildly sexual with each other. And I rewrote it several times because I didn't want it to get too sexual. Now, I admit that what ended up happening is that I picked the scene in which they're sparring, like with swords, and as a as like a flirtatious thing, they start to cut each other's clothes off, and like, oh, that's sexy. But how sexy is too sexy for YA? You know what I'm saying? I guess if I was writing a book for adults, I wouldn't have even thought about it. I would have been like, this is just fun and sexy. You know what I'm saying? But since it is a book for YA, since I know that some schools have picked up the series and like the middle school and stuff like that, obviously I'm not gonna have like, and then all their clothes were torn off. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, it's just I think I managed to capture it in such a way that it is obviously sexy and flirty without it being gratuitous, or it would be rated R or something
Mhm.
like that. But I
Yeah.
did write it several times because I was like, I don't want it to get too crazy, boss. Everybody needs to calm it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I know when I first started writing, I wrote several different. My stuff's definitely not appropriate for YA. I wrote, I always do fade to black. I'll stress that, but I wrote stuff. I tried to write because at the time, I'm a massive fan of The Land by Alaron Kong. Really love that series and
Mm.
quite a few others, but I really love that. And I'd been going through a bit of a binge of that and Ascend Online by Luke Chimlenko. And they're both dark in certain ways, but the overall feeling of it, the overall emotion's quite like cheerful and like, hey, bouncy around type of thing. My books aren't. And I really tried to write in that. and it was a mess. Reading it and going back through and sort of trying to tweak things as you're learning and just going, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And every single time, it started off quite cheerful, and by like chapter 3, people were fucking murdered everywhere. There's blood up the walls.
Oh,
People having
jeez.
like, and I was like, yeah, I just need to own this. I need to accept that this is the way it is, and just write the story I want to write. And I ended up putting it out to a few people and being told it's too dark. It'll never sell.
Oh.
You can change all this, and I was like, no, I'm just going to do it anyway. Fuck you. And I love dark stuff. It just works for me. Although it does mean that there's a massive segment of the market, young age, for example, that I will never be able to market towards because it's just like, no. And that's a shame because the massive market that's brilliant as well. I mean, stuff like Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. And I'll say that. I can say that because Paul's not on here, because something would have already been said by now if Paul was on here. But I love the series Harry Potter. I listened to it on audio. I know you guys have got a couple of different. You've got different versions out there. We have the audio here has. Oh God, who is it that does the audio in the UK? Can't think of his name. It is absolutely brilliant, though. I've heard the American version, and it's nowhere near. Harry Potter audio. Right. Who is it? Stephen Fry. If you try listening to the Stephen Fry version over the American one, and you'll just forevermore, you'll thank me for that, because it's just fucking wonderful.
I don't actually listen to audiobooks, so
Really?
yeah. I'm sorry. I read a little too fast. Like I read so fast, and the audiobook people, it feels so slow. Like it's one of those moments where I'm like, oh my God, get the information to me faster.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that they're like voice acting, so they can't just read me the book as fast as fucking possible, because that's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I understand, but this is why I feel a little weird. Also, and I didn't know that I did this until I listened to an audiobook for the first time, but I reread a lot. So sometimes I'll read like sentence A, and then sentence B will say something, and then I'll be like, oh, I want to reread sentence A again because B has recontextualized it. And then I'll keep reading. And in an audiobook, I can't do that unless I'm willing to rewind 10 seconds every 10 seconds. You know what I'm saying? And so I find it difficult to listen to audiobooks.
No, I love audio, but I don't listen to audio anywhere near as much at the moment. I used to, but just in my life, I don't have the time anymore. I can also change the speed in audiobooks. Yeah, I'm not sure you can understand them as quickly as they go. So many people say they listen to audiobooks at like 1.75 times or 2 times the speed. And I've tried listening to it, and it sounds like birds on crack. You know, it's like, what the fuck is all that? How can you get through a story like that? Why would you want to?
Well, I feel like that's probably how I'm reading. Like, that's why audiobooks seem so slow to me, because I'm like, when I'm reading, I'm like, whoosh, 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 we got to get, I need to know what happens, man. I can't, I can't handle the suspense. What's going to happen? So yeah, audiobooks are just a little too slow for me.
No, I do love audio. I do love audio on that side of things. I need to have a bit more time to listen to some audio, but then it's either dual audio for me or go home. Yeah, no, duet. Yeah, I think dual audio. I was like, what? Fucking, you listen to 2 books at once? What? They're fighting?
Yes.
You listen to the books. Which one's louder? Yeah, no, duet is so much better. I do really enjoy duet stuff. Certain books don't suit it at all. Other books are magnificent for it. It's great. I do love my audio stuff, and I also have to say that Neil Helliger's brilliant narrator, funny as fuck when he's drunk.
Well, he sounds amazing.
I think everybody should listen to more Neil Helliger's audio stuff, not just my stuff that he's done, but like everything that he does, because it's hilarious. And then get him drunk at Dragon Con. I think everybody should just plan. Anybody who's going to Dragon Con should just plan to buy him a drink and another drink.
Are you going to be at Dragon Con this year?
Oh yeah, you?
Oh yeah. I can't. We should meet up. It'd be great.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh no, I'm looking forward to Dragon Con again. Didn't get on the pro track, unfortunately. Got
Oh,
refused for that, which is a bit annoying, but yeah,
really?
yeah,
That
I
that
got
seems
refused
odd.
last year.
Huh.
I think it's just one of those things, really. Face doesn't fit, so I'll just go along and just wind people up instead.
Well, that
Did
sounds
you get
great.
on?
Yeah, yeah, I'm on the pro track. I just thought you were probably more popular than me. You know what I'm saying? That you would have
Oh.
easily been there.
No, there's the surprising amount of people that are on the panels at DragonCon. Obviously, they do them because they want a certain person for a certain role and to fill in sort of the things to appeal to different people. Some of the guys that were on last year when I was there, like Matt Dinnerman,
Yeah,
huge sales, and then other guys that had hardly sold anything. And it's because obviously they're the right people for the panels. It's
yeah,
really weird. So yeah, I didn't get on this year. I'll try again next year. Hopefully it'll work then, but you never know.
yeah. I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah.
I'm sure
And
it'll all
if
work
nothing else, I have the advantage of I'm not on panels, so I don't need to be sober.
out.
Yeah, anybody that sees me at Dragon Con, yes, I drink rum.
Oh. I don't actually drink, so I'll just be sober the whole time. Yeah, sorry. I'm not religious or anything either. So, so I tell people I'm so sorry, man, but I did. My mother is like a crazy drunk, and my dad killed himself by drunk driving, and I've just had a lot of really bad experiences with alcohol in general, and I don't begrudge anybody who drinks. Like, please drink all the rum that you want. You know what I'm saying?
I
It's just,
shall.
it's not for me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I just
Oh,
don't drink.
yeah, I grew up in the restaurant trade, so that's a lie, actually. I got older and uglier in the restaurant trade. You don't grow up in the restaurant trade; you just basically stay a child forever. That's how you end up as a chef because you are a child and you refuse to grow up and you just want to burn things
Oh my
and have
god.
knives. But it meant that I learned to drink at a very early age, and I was surrounded by heavy drinkers my entire life. So I drink on these lives because it feels right to sit and have a beer and sit and have some rum and talk to people, and I drink at Dragon Con and so on when I'm with everybody, and that is the only times I actually drink. I never have a drink beyond that.
Mm,
So because I had a lot of alcoholics in the family, so for me, losing control to the point that you need a drink all the time is something I can't allow myself. So I
yeah.
don't get drunk, I go straight to ill. That's unfortunate for you, Ed. That is massively unfortunate, my son. I just stay in the happy drunk stage generally.
Yeah, I just I have a lot of really bad memories associated. It's the same with smoking because my mother smoked like a chimney.
Yeah,
So, whenever I smell cigarette smoke, I mean, I know some people are
yeah,
like, "Oh, I just hate the smell of cigarette smoke." I immediately start thinking about my mother and my life as a kid, and it just depresses me. So, this is one of those things where I'm like, I don't think I would be happy drinking or smoking. It would never bring me any sort of pleasure. So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm just not. I personally am not into it, and I don't mind if anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, if everybody else is having a great time, that's great. But it's just not for me.
Well, there will be a lot of drinking at Dragon Con.
Again,
Um,
totally
it-
fine, and I'm glad that
it's
everybody else is having a great time.
it's really good fun, but obviously, whatever state happens at DragonCon, you can't tell people if you're going to be sober and you actually see shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had Chatfield running around in his underwear
Oops.
just most of the time. You're drunk on novels. Does that count? Yeah, totally counts. Fuck it. Yeah, works
Yeah.
for me, Danny. But yeah, this some of the shit that went on. There were buckets, literal buckets, like bucket and spade at the sea. We were drinking rum out of buckets,
Oh my god.
like as in a bucket.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They were just filling it up. When I went to the bar and they were like, "Oh, bucket of rum. Yeah, what do you want as a mixer? More rum." And they go, "No. What do you want as a mixer? Fucking rum." And they're, "Oh
Just
well,
straight rum.
yeah, we'll just top this up until you say stop." All right, I know which one's going to tap out first, pal. And it was literally just leveled off as pure rum. So I spent about an hour with this drink. It was fantastic. Shami, will you be a sober friend at Dragon Con? You'd have to shake your head when we propose stupid things and discourage Jez at all times.
I'll be there. I don't know if I'll discourage everybody at all times
Yeah.
because it would also be funny to watch you guys do crazy things, but I'll discourage you from doing anything dangerous. No.
Where's the fun in that?
dangerous. Come on now, you don't want to fly off and swim in a hotel pool, do you? While you're drunk.
I can't swim. I'll still have a go.
Oh my god. I can't save you. I've told you about my weak noodly arms. You will die. I'll just be there watching, talking about a depressing scene. Ugh.
No, I've got lung damage, so my lungs are permanently screwed. But it means that my lungs can't inflate fully.
Oh.
And me and my brothers are all quite heavy boned. We're all just big fuckers. So it means that I have virtually no buoyancy whatsoever. I just hit the basically my version of getting across the pool is I hit the water, I hit the bottom, I walk, and I get back out. And I occasionally have to squat down, jump up, and thrash the water enough to get to the top to get a breath of air, hit the bottom, and walk again. That's how I get anywhere. There is not a cat in hell's chance of me swimming.
Okay, well, again, I'll discourage you from swimming. Don't swim. You can't swim.
And then we'll have like Kev and Brian going, swim. You can do it.
And they're throwing you
totally
in the
do it.
pool.
Like,
Yeah, physically moving you in there. Oh
like,
God,
look at this
why?
bottle of rum.
Yeah.
Go after it. Yeah, it will be as well.
So, Denny had an 8th question way back in the tangent thing. Yeah, there we go.
What scenes made you happy, got you hyped? What scenes were those? Oh, go for it.
You know, since I'm just talking about my Arcana series, although there was a scene in my Nexus games, which is the lit RPG I wrote, so maybe I'll just briefly talk about both of these. In the very first Nightmare Arcanist book, when the main character bonds with his nightmare, like it becomes his familiar. I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but I guess it's like the 7th chapter in that book, so a spoiler is in big fat quotes. He is in a swamp, and there is a white heart. And if you know much about mythical creatures, the white heart is like a deer that can't be caught, or it's really difficult to be caught. So there's a white heart in the swamp, but it's been twisted into a monster. So it's like a monstrous deer, and I mean that in like the body horror sense of the way, where it is just physically fucked up. And it attempts to kill the main character, but the main character, because he's a genuinely good guy, defends the other person in the swamp. He allows the other person in the swamp to get away and fights this monstrous deer, basically, to the point where it almost costs him his life. And the nightmare watches, and when the nightmare comes to him after the fight, he gives a speech. And I like that speech so much. Anytime that I read that speech, I get hyped again. Like, I'm like, oh man, that was a good chef kiss scene. Super love it. There are other scenes too, but that one's really, really early in the book. I really, really love. I don't actually want to spoil it, and to describe it might take too long. It might, you know what I'm saying? Like that chapter was like 2,000 words. So in order to adequately describe what happened, I would need about 2,000 words, and I don't know if everybody just wants to listen to me talk that long. So just know, probably one of my favorite scenes, got me very hyped. In the Nexus games, there is a scene in which, so it's a lit RPG, and he's in like a battle royale situation where he's in like a competition that basically uses video game side quests as all of the missions. So like one of them is an escort quest, one of them is like a wave defense. Like these are the games he's playing. And in the games there are rooms that you could get trapped in that are like puzzle bonus rooms. And in the second book, main character gets trapped in a bonus puzzle room and he can't escape. And it makes me happy because him and his teammates are arguing about how to solve the puzzle, and there's like a puzzle master in the room who's trying to give him the puzzle, and the puzzle is insane. Like they have a piece of paper and they have to turn the paper into gold. That's the puzzle. And everybody in the room is like, that's impossible, you can't do that, how are we going to solve this? And somebody's like, it's a riddle, you know, we have to think outside the box. And everyone's like, we don't have time. If we don't solve it within 30 seconds, we're all going to die. And everybody's freaking out, like they're like, what, you can't turn the paper into gold. And I guess again, a spoiler, the main character, he has a gun and he just shoots the game master and he's like, boom, problem solved. And they leave the puzzle room. And it just, anytime I think of that scene too, because it's just funny because everybody is panicking about the stupid
Yeah.
riddle, and the main character is like, nope, we're just shooting this guy and we're just gonna keep going. And it makes me laugh every single time. Every time I think about it. So what about you, Jez?
Oh, I just love that idea of shooting the game master. Shooting a
It
fucking
makes me
thing.
laugh every single time I've thought about that scene since I've written it. I'm like, remember when he just shot the game master? Like he just didn't give a shit anymore. He was just like, no, we're leaving.
No, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
No, for me, it's like I said before, probably the Lydia scene. Lydia's sort of rediscovering herself and bringing herself back from the brink of what she was. She was a trafficked slave who
Oh,
was, she was literally rescued at the point that she was going to be fed to a monster because she was viewed as being that worthless. That
oh,
we'll just get rid of her with these other slaves because hey, we need somebody to give to the monster to be able to breed its kids, so it injects them into and grows to make them as incubators. And she was that viewed as that worthless. And then by this point, she's she's one of the first resurgent Valkyries. She's kicking the living shit out of anybody that crosses her, and she comes across her ex-husband, who was one of the people who sold her into slavery.
oh.
And when she beats the living fuck out of him, and she's stopped by the main character who's like, whoa, 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 you're gonna kill him. It's like, so do you want me to heal him so you can do it again? And it's just like that, like, yeah. And she's like,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting outside. I'm gonna beat the fuck out of him again. Oh, sorry, that was her dad. And then goes outside and beats fuck out of her husband. And it's just scenes like that. Yeah, okay, and they're not exactly, we go back to not YA appropriate, but very cathartic. I
Yes.
found, I felt, and I really enjoyed those scenes. So they meant a lot to me. Um, yeah, fucked up ones. Chase is mad.
Oh
I
no,
had
it's okay. I like that. That's a great scene. That's pretty hilarious. I once played a tabletop game, Vampire the Masquerade. I don't know if you've ever
yeah,
played it or heard about it. There's a power in the game where you can open up like a black hole and suck people into it. And in the game, I opened up a black hole through the enemy end, and then I used my power to withdraw the person, and the person was like, "Whoa, you're saving me!" And I'm like, "No, I just wanted to see the look on your face when I did it a second time," and then just threw him back into the dark hole. And so you're like, "Oh, you want me to heal him to fuck him up again?" And I'm like, "Yes, do it, Jez. Write that
yeah,
into the book."
yeah. It's sometimes as much as people don't appreciate it, sometimes you just need to be fucking dark. You need a bit of fucking evil of just like, yeah, fuck this shit.
Well, when the characters who are getting their comeuppance are getting their comeuppance, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like that's fun. I don't even consider it dark. I mean, that's one of
yeah,
those things where it's like that's you did it. You know what I'm saying? You got
yeah,
your revenge that just deserts.
definitely. There's times when it's just fucking brilliant. So that was a rare sighting of Gizzy, also known as Shitbag.
Aw.
The cat that came past there. Because normally Martha comes past and shows her ass quite a lot because that's the way the cats are. Gizzy, you may have noticed when she went past, has some tats on her back because she is so fat she can't actually groom herself.
Aw.
And she's semi-feral, so she'll let me be near her, but won't let anybody else in the family be anywhere near her. And so every so often we have to pin her down and shave her
Aw.
because she's fucking she can't groom herself. But she's very happy. So if anybody saw the tats and was worried that, I'm neglecting the cat or something, she's sitting here purring her head off, getting strokes. So she's not neglected, she's just fat. She's fat as a bit.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's the way the world is. Fuck 'em. Ninth question. If you can turn your book into a TV show, anime, or movie, which format would you choose? What series and why? Ooh, good one.
Hmm. I would definitely do my Nightmare Arcanist series is like an anime, or like an animated show in general. I really really love animation. Like I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan of all animation to this day. I still see all the animated movies. Just recently saw the Puss in Boots Last Wish movie, which was actually really good. Like like
Yeah,
Chef Kiss. Yeah, I would highly recommend it to anybody who is a fan of animation as well. So I would be elated if any of my stuff was turned into any sort of animated anything. So there you go.
definitely. Um, I would love to see any of my stuff done into movies more than anime. I think just because it's a wider audience. I know that I love anime and especially some of the darker stuff. I used to love like Devilman and stuff like that. But I think that it would be awesome to see something like either Underverse or Arise or Rise of Mankind. I would just love to see them as proper films. And especially with some of the kind of actors you get, if you get somebody like Henry Cavill to play the main role,
Oh my
it'd just be
god.
brilliant. Especially just because Henry Cavill, I mean, as Witcher was brilliant, but because he's so clean cut and so, hi everybody, ta-da, and all my characters constantly go, ah, fuck. Everything's always swearing and dark. So I actually, when I first started out, when my books were first sort of getting turned into audio, I asked for the narrator, one of the narrators from the Wheel of Time, and they talked about it and went, okay, well, yeah, we could possibly do that. And it was more of just for shits and giggles because I really wanted, because he went through all of that and he went through all the other series that I've heard with this sort of quite well behaved voice. And I just wanted to make him say fuck every 10 minutes for
Oh
like
my
20
god.
hours. Just to piss,
Yeah,
just
look
piss.
at you, just starting
Yeah.
things.
It's like
The
I
way
would
to
love to
do.
have. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson would be the ideal narrator for me.
Oh my god. There was I think when he was promoting Snakes on a Plane, you could go to a website and type in your name, and then Samuel L. Jackson, big fat quotes, would call you to like leave a message being like, you motherfucker Jez, you need to go watch Snakes on a Plane, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like you call your phone. I'm sure it was just an automated robot, but it
yeah.
sounded like him, so it was fun.
No, it's you do get some. Have you heard "Go the Fuck to Sleep"?
No,
Okay,
is it like a
audiobook.
child's book? But
It is, but it's
okay.
called "Go the Fuck to Sleep." It's Samuel L. There's a couple of different versions out there on Audible. Get the Samuel L. Jackson version, and it speaks to every parent in the world because you listen to it and you go, yeah, fucking yeah, yeah, that is my life. You are just so accurate on that.
Alrighty then. Yeah, maybe I'll check it out. That does sound hilarious.
It is. It's only short. It's like 5 minutes long, but it is brilliant. It is worth it. Seriously. So we've talked about books, we've talked about games, we've talked about movies. So the whole point, we say this every time we do one of these lives, the whole point of the lives is to talk to cool authors like yourself. For me to
Aw.
be able to fucking get my just total geekiness out and just talk to people that are brilliant authors that I respect. And also for us to ask you questions, for us to all get to know each other a little bit, but it's also for you to tell us about your favorite books. So the whole point was always, as I was saying before, that we've got loads and loads of books coming out all the time. That new names are getting swamped like nothing else. There's loads of brilliant authors out there that aren't getting the recognition that they deserve. So, is there anybody that you would like to recommend, that you want to talk about a book that you've read recently or anything like that?
Um.
Put you on the spot now, haven't I?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that I think I told you that I have a TBR and that things get fast tracked to the top. And the reason that they get fast tracked is because maybe I know somebody tangentially, or like maybe I was in a
Mhm.
writer's group with them or something like that. And so they're like, hey, read my book. Because I want your feedback before it comes out or something like that. And I'm like, okay. So the problem is that now I basically know all of these authors. So any of the ones that I'm about to recommend, I know them personally. You know what I'm saying? So it's
That's fine.
bias almost in that, like, oh yeah, this guy's great. Um, I liked uh Void Core and Lich Core. So it's a Dungeon Core series. So my husband also writes lit RPG and
All right.
Dungeon Core. So before he started writing, we would go to bed and he would be like, we'd be lying there and he'd be like, Shammy, if you were a dungeon, what kind of dungeon would you be? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like I would turn to him and he'd be like, what? And he's like, I've been reading these books. They're called dungeon cores, where people turn into dungeons and they make dungeon. And I was like, okay. And he's
Yeah.
like, it's so cool. And John has read every single dungeon core ever. If a dungeon core exists, he has read it. He's consumed them all. He loves them. And so he started writing dungeon core. And then some of our friends heard from John that he was writing dungeon core, and they started writing dungeon core. People in our writers group started writing dungeon core. You know what I'm saying? Like lots of people started writing dungeon core, and lich core is one of these. It's like a person of a person of a person heard about dungeon core and was like, "Oh, I want to try writing them." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I liked reading lich core. I thought lich core was super awesome. I also liked Monster Girl Dungeon. So this is another person of a person of a person who heard
Yeah.
about John's passion about dungeons was like, whoa. And Lich Core is about like an undead core. So in that universe, there's 4 elements, and he is the 5th element that is now like this undead or like a soul element. So the other one is like fire, wind, water. You know, like the classical
Yeah.
elements, and then he's like a soul element. So his dungeon is very unique. But because he's really unique, there is a person who's going around collecting dungeon cores and wants to kill his dungeon core to collect that element. So, you know, that's interesting conflict. I really liked the undead character. Dungeon core, obviously, because my husband got into it, it now has a special place in my heart. So, um, I liked all of that. Monster Girl Dungeon, on the flip side, is like a harem book, I guess, for lack
It
of a better
sounds
term.
harem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, and I don't mind harem stuff at all. I know that some people that like really turns them off like immediately, like the moment you even say that. But I know the author. She writes super well. She has a passion for writing it. She was really scared to write it because she thought people would judge her harshly or be like, everybody's gonna think I'm weird and depraved. And I was like, no, I'm sure it's
Go
just
ahead,
fun.
rest of the clip.
It's fun escapist fantasy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's fine. And she was like, okay, but she was very nervous for a very long time to release it. And then she finally did, and it's well received. Like most of the reviews are really great. It did really well. She's working on the sequel. I really liked it. You know what I'm saying? Like I read it all the way through, thought it was great. Um yeah, see, Denny gets it.
Yeah.
Harems are romances, but she writes exceptionally well. She has a great turn of phrase. Everything is beautifully detailed. So I like Lichcore. I like Monster Girl Dungeon. But again, I always have to preface this like bias because
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, do you want to name the authors?
yeah, so Scott Killian is the guy who did Lichcore.
Mhm.
And Daniel Maines is the one who did Monster Girl Dungeon. Um, like I said, both great. I know of a couple other books that are going to be coming out
Mhm.
that I
Mhm.
have read already and that I was super stoked for, including there is a garden core, so kid dungeon core. I'm just gonna keep going to this dungeon core because my husband seriously convinced everybody that this was the best genre of all time, and everybody got very excited. But so garden core is like a dungeon that is very garden themed, obviously. But what happens is it's kind of a slice of life dungeon core because the adventurers get ultra cool seeds and gardening things, and they return to the real world as opposed like Earth and stuff like that, as opposed to like a fantasy
Yeah.
world that they live in. So people who collect shit from the dungeon come back to the real world and they decide to open a farm with their magical fucking goods that they got from this magical dungeon that only they can get to. So they have a magical farm with magical stuff that they're growing from their secret dungeon. And I just felt like that was fun.
Yeah, I like
Um,
that.
yeah, so it's just a fun concept, but it hasn't
Turns out to
released
be
yet.
LSD. Yeah. It's
Right.
like it's all magic, man.
Dude, I should recommend that to her. She should write in the magical marijuana. But that's not quite what she has right now. But you know what I'm saying? Like that's just a
Yeah.
fun concept. I'm having a good time with it. Technically, my husband is writing Elf Empire. It's his passion project that he
Mhm.
can't stop talking to me about, and he put it on Royal Road. And a lot of
Mhm.
people on Royal Road are like super excited for it. He just recently did it because he is like a diehard for kingdom building. You know, when you
Yeah.
were like, man, I love Civ 6 and Civ 5, I immediately thought of my husband because he can't stop playing things like Stellaris,
Yeah.
Civ, any kind of Civ, Europa Universalis. You know, even things like Hearts of Iron and stuff like that. Like any of those types of games, any 4X game, he's on. And he also loves The Land by Alaron Kong, and so he wants to have his own epic, cool kingdom building. So it's like an isekai. Some guy turns into an elf, like he gets sucked into a fantasy world. He's an elf, and he wants to raise up an elf empire. And obviously, that's the
Yeah.
title of the book. So, but super biased there because obviously he's my husband. But I thought it was great too. So all
It's not
these
me,
books I would highly recommend, all 4 of them. Although Garden Core isn't available, and Elf Empire is for free on Royal Road, so anybody can just go check it out anytime they want.
What's his name?
John Stoval.
Cool. I didn't know who was under a pen name or something like that. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's just that's it.
Cool.
Technically, I've written under a pen name, but technically. Oh, okay, yeah. Brian looked them all up. Yeah, they all have great covers. They're all great books. I super recommend them. I read them. Monster Girl isn't under pre-order. Monster Girl Dungeon's out. It's been out since September of last year. So if there's something else called Monster Girl, that's the wrong Monster Girl. But Daniel Main's Monster Girl Dungeons have been out. But yeah, I really love reading. I feel like a lot of the ones that I have read that I don't know them in any way or capacity, they're very famous already. Like The Iron Prince or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody needs me to recommend The Iron Prince just because I think if you're in this space, you've probably heard about it already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in case you haven't, that one's
Yeah.
also a good one. That's a banger. So yeah, but I do have tons to get through still. I'm sure I'm gonna find tons more hidden gems. You know what I'm saying? But so many good books to read, so little time.
It is. It very, very much is. Like I was saying before, I mean, my recommendation at the moment for this week has to be the where is it? There we go. Dawn of the Void by P.W. Tucker. That's
On Royal Road, you're saying, yeah.
On Royal Road. That's my recommendation this fortnight. See, that's a weird point. Do you have the word fortnight?
Well, I know the word Fortnite, and but it's probably from my history degree. So I feel like a lot of the stuff that I know, sometimes I just know it from history, because a lot of people, those old letters, like those World War I letters, like everybody in there is like in a fortnight we will be going X, Y, Z, and so you just osmosis learn those types of things.
I was stunned to find that you guys, but Americans don't use Fortnite. So Fortnite in the UK and the rest of the world, Gizzy, sorry, the cat's playing with the blinds, means 2 weeks. So it's literally, so as Jay's saying, we just say 2 weeks on this side of the pond. Yeah, well, we have standards, we have words that mean things. But just because you can't remember too many of them, so yeah, it's fine. Keep missing out fucking letters and all your words, mispronouncing fucking aluminum.
We just dropped all the unnecessary U's, huh? We don't need all those U's.
Those are totally necessary. Don't Americans say a baker's dozen plus 1? What? A baker's dozen in the UK is 13.
Well, that's what a baker's dozen mean. But maybe sometimes, I feel like a lot of the times when people over clarify like that, it's because they're falling out of use. So a baker's dozen, they would do that because they didn't ever want to be accused of not giving you an actual dozen. So they gave you an extra one. But because we don't really have bakeries that much here in the United States anymore, like I know in Europe, bakeries are still more of a thing, at least from what I've heard, there are more bakeries than there are in the US. But here in the US, it is actually kind of hard to find a bakery. And most people don't order a dozen of anything. You know what I'm saying? You don't go be like, I need a dozen little loaves of bread. No, you just grab your sack of squishy, gross white bread in the grocery store, and then you head out.
Squishy, gross white bread. What the fuck's wrong with white bread?
Oh, nothing is wrong with white bread. It's the really squishy, spongy bread in plastic bag. You know what I'm talking about. Maybe I've been saying I just like crunchy bread. Yeah, boutique bakeries. Jay gets it. Most bakery, it's not. I can't go to a bakery and just get a loaf of bread. If I go to a bakery, they're all selling like super high-end specialty cookies or something like that,
Yeah.
or like fancy desserts. Um,
We had
so
of all the stupid things here, right? We in our household had a recent sort of issue, which was that the toaster died. Right? This
aw,
sounds stupid. It sounds like fucking like nothing. So Chrissy went out and bought a replacement toaster. Fair enough.
aw.
Minor thing. The toaster was too small to fit in the fucking bread. Right? So you get a normal slice of bread, and the top third was just untoasted. So you had like toast, bread.
Uh,
It was like, well, this is no fucking good. So that went back, got another one, brought that one. And this one, I've never experienced anything like it. The bread was crunchy. So toast, yes, okay, I get the theory of this. You are toasting the bread. I know it's fucking stupid. I know it. But messaging Chrissy after she'd gone out with the kids and I'd sort of made some toast and I was like, this toast's really crunchy. And she was like, are you fucking having a laugh? You're complaining that the toast's crunchy. I was like, look, seriously, you don't understand. This toast is crunchy as fuck. And she's like, it's toast. It's supposed to be crunchy. I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is
Too
crunchy.
crunchy.
And she did not get this. And anybody that's listening to this now, you're probably all thinking I'm fucking mad or whatever. She finally, the moral of the story, she finally managed to get a decent toaster. And it works great now. But it was just overly drying the bread out to the point where you could have like sharpened the edges and used it as an offensive weapon.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Have
it
you
was
ever
fucking
seen The
awful.
Brave Little Toaster? The movie?
No.
No? Aw. It's like Toy Story only with household appliances and the brave little toaster. The toaster is the main character. And so when you were like the toaster died, all I could think about was the brave little toaster. Oh no. He loved you. He wanted to make toast for you forever and you threw him away. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, that toaster's not working properly. It's going in the bin. Get a new toaster. All right. Then she was like, okay, here's the new toaster. I'm like, it's a shit toaster. I need a new toaster. Like, it's a toaster. It toasts the bread. I was like, it doesn't do it right. I need the right toaster. You don't understand.
Aw, Denny gets it. The brave little toaster is a classic. Jay, you don't know what you're talking about. The brave little
Laputa.
toaster.
Laputa. Do you know that one?
Laputa?
Yeah. Childhood movies. The Castle in the Sky.
I've seen The Castle in the Sky, yeah.
Yeah. So that was called Laputa. So in the UK, it was Laputa, the
Oh.
Castle in the Sky, rather than
Yeah.
the Castle in the Sky. So yeah. Sorry, it just suddenly came back to me there when talking about childhood movies and stuff. So anyway, sorry, we should probably call it. We've been on for 2 hours, but is there anything you want to talk about before we go, Shami? Is there any last questions anybody has?
I think Denny asked, does Elf Empire have romance? It
I
does.
missed this.
Yeah.
This is important.
Very adorable. Obviously the main character gets isekai'd into like an elf kingdom, and there's like an elf lady who is like a super scholar who really also wants the Elf Empire, because it collapsed way long ago, to like rise back to prominence. So she's like super dedicated to making sure that it's amazing and great. So they make for a great team. That's what I like about certain types of romances, when they make a great team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So did he write the character about you, or?
He sometimes says that the character has traits of me. I'm kind of a
Yeah.
weirdo though, so I feel like if I were a character in a book that nobody would be nobody would be into me, because I'm that weirdo in the corner that's like, hey. And he's over here now looking at me like, what is Lily the elf girl based off me? Yeah, see, she's not totally based on me, because I'm too weird.
Yeah. He's saying that, but he's also going, wait a minute. The sex scene. Yes, that's definitely. If you fancy trying, he's going to be laying the
Oh
groundwork.
my god, that's TMI. You can't know that.
Yeah. Okay, what was that one, Jay? Popping up
Yeah.
there? Since everyone has been nice so far, someone has to be the pervert. Shami, when you're writing, do you ever keep your husband trapped under your desk?
Oh my god. I've written some books. So Jazz,
Some
you were
boots with your
like,
husband under the desk.
oh no. What I was gonna say is, Jez, you said that you always do Fade to Black, but
Yeah.
my pen name, all those books had very explicit sex scenes, and after writing those, maybe I would go hang out with my husband and be like, "Hey, guess what I just wrote?" Yeah, me.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. When you've written something good, and you're just like tap tap tap.
Yeah. Now I'm in the proper mood for this.
Yeah,
Was role playing it out to myself for a while here. Now we should go back.
definitely. Ain't nothing wrong with that. All consenting adults. Fuck it. Everybody has fun. It's got to be done. But anyway, guys, we're going to call it there. I mean, we've had plenty of questions, plenty of comments. We've had a good time, or at least I certainly have. Anyway, thank
Yeah, it
you for
was
coming
great.
on, Shami. It's been lovely to talk to you. And we talked obviously at LitCon, which was great fun. And now we're going to talk and get very, very drunk at DragonCon. Is your husband coming with you?
Yeah, he is. He'll be there.
Good. So we'll all get very, very drunk. He will tell us all these terrible secrets, and we will use them as blackmail to stop you from telling people about the shit that you see when we're drunk.
Oh my god.
It's just getting it all out in public, you know. Just let's be clear here.
Yep. All right.
But,
Well, it was super great talking to you, and thanks for all the questions, everyone.
all right, great. Thanks for having. Excuse me. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for having
Don't
fun.
die with your damaged lungs.
That's fine. If I die, it's all right. Chrissy's upstairs. She'll just put me up. Thanks, Brian, and good night, everybody. Thank you very much. Bye bye.